The scorched earth still whispered with heat as the sun dipped behind the ruins of Outpost Cressida, casting long shadows across the crumpled metallic bones of what had once been a defense grid. Smoke curled lazily upward, thin and unsure of itself, like even the fire didn't quite know what to do now that the fight was over. And standing at the center of it all, steel-plated boots pressed into ash, hands behind her back, expression carved from the icy surface of Glavari Prime, stood Commander Sciolari. She was terrifying, not just in the way that people meant when they saw a towering alien warrior in black adaptive armor that shifted with her breath, but in the way she didn't need to speak to make a battalion fall silent. Her presence did the speaking. Her long ears, tapered and silver-ringed, twitched faintly with every breeze, catching sounds humans couldn't perceive. Her golden hair was pulled tight into a braid that hung like a coiled whip down her back, not a strand out of place. Her deep blue skin gleamed faintly with flecks of reflective alloy, genetically bonded during her years in the Zurelian military crucible. She looked like someone forged in battle and then polished with precision. The bodies had been cleared, most of them. Her soldiers worked in efficient silence around her, scanning for survivors, cataloging the dead. She didn't help, not because she couldn't, but because her job wasn't cleaning. It was commanding and assessing anomalies, which is exactly what the human sitting on a collapsed supply crate was. He didn't have the decency to look injured or terrified or even confused. His uniform was torn, but he sat comfortably, elbows on his knees, head tilted slightly to one side as if he were listening to music only he could hear. No bindings, no resistance. He'd been found like this, lounging casually while everyone around him either screamed or went silent forever. Sailari stopped in front of him and let the silence stretch long enough to test the strength of his nerves. He met her gaze. "I expected more armor," he said, voice dry as a Martian whiskey. "You know, glowing shoulder pads, spikes, something dramatic." Sailari's brow twitched. "You are addressing a superior enemy commander," she said. "Mockery is ill-advised." "Ah, good. You do have a sense of humor. I was worried you might be one of those brooding, vengeance-sworn types." For the briefest moment, she considered activating her exosuit's stun pulse directly into his ribcage. But that would have been undisciplined, and if Sciolari was anything, it was disciplined. She knelt slightly so they were eye to eye. "Why aren't you afraid?" He blinked. No smug smile now. Just a small, sincere pause. Then he tilted his head the other way, considering. "Because you don't want me to be," he said simply. That was not the answer she expected. She waited for the rest. A punchline. An insult. Some psych tactic from human command. But he just sat there, watching her with untroubled curiosity, as if she'd asked him about his favorite sandwich filling, instead of why he wasn't trembling, like every other survivor she'd ever interrogated. Her ears flexed. She hated that they did that when she was unsettled. "You think I want you to be calm?" she asked. "I destroyed your outpost. Killed your people." He nodded. "Yep, pretty thoroughly. You even blew up our snack dispensers. Truly ruthless." There it was again, that damned infuriating casualness, like he was on vacation in a war zone. "Your name," she said sharply. "Elian Wren, Lieutenant, Earth Defense Alliance. Retired as of about 15 minutes ago." Her gauntlet flashed as it scanned him. No enhancements, no neural dampeners. Just a standard-issue combat implant and a faint scar near his temple. Nothing that explained his calm. Nothing that gave her an excuse. She straightened. "You will be taken aboard the Veritas Blade for questioning." "Does it have snacks?" "Snacks? I mean, you blew ours up. I'm just trying to plan ahead." She stared at him for a full 5 seconds before turning on her heel. Her lieutenant, a younger Zurelian with a nervous blink and a too-quick salute, stepped forward to escort the prisoner. Elian followed without resistance. "Is she always like this?" he asked the soldier. "All grim stares and existential dread?" The lieutenant didn't answer. Salari didn't need to turn to feel the human's grin behind her. Aboard the Veritas Blade, Elian was escorted into a containment room that looked more like a minimalist art exhibit than a prison. No restraints, no visible surveillance. Though Sailari was sure he'd noticed the pressure-sensitive tiles and adaptive temperature regulators embedded in the floor and walls. The human was clever. That was the problem. She stood behind the observation pane, watching him pace. He didn't behave like a prisoner, more like someone waiting for an appointment. He even whistled. The tune was off-key. "Should I turn off the oxygen for a few seconds?" asked Rex 99, the ship's AI. Its voice was calm and chipper, like a cheerful but unhelpful assistant. "Just long enough to make him sweat?" "No," she said, "but it might be funny." REX. "Yes, Commander. Logging sense of humor at 4% capacity. Noted." She inhaled slowly. Machines shouldn't sass. She would have to speak to engineering. She entered the room. Elian looked up from the wall, where he'd apparently been tracing imaginary pictures with his finger. "You came back," he said. "I was afraid they'd send the guy with the twitchy eye again." "I am your interrogator." He nodded. "I'd say I'm flattered, but I'm guessing it's not a social call." She ignored the joke and activated her wrist device. A hollow projection of Earth's last strategic movements shimmered between them. "What is Project Cinderlight?" He blinked, genuinely confused. "Sounds like a failed sci-fi reboot." She narrowed her eyes. "I'm serious," he added. "That doesn't even sound like something we'd name a real operation. Too dramatic. We prefer things like Operation Sandwich Storm." "That was a real one." Her ears twitched. "Sandwich Storm? Oh yeah. We launched 2,000 deli flyers over a Zarelian trade station. Psychological warfare. Some say the smell of pastrami still haunts the corridors." She stared. He smiled. "Humor is a deflection," she said. Sometimes it's all you have when someone blows up your snack dispenser." Silence pulsed between them again, but this time it wasn't heavy. It was odd, familiar, as if the distance between their species had shrunk by a fraction. She should have left then. She didn't. Instead, she asked, "Have you ever eaten a cavall fruit?" He raised an eyebrow. "Is that the one that smells like motor oil but tastes like honey?" Her lip twitched, just slightly. A twitch. He saw it. "You almost smiled." "I did not." "You almost did." She turned and left. Behind her, his voice followed, teasing, curious, warm in a way that no cell walls could contain. And when she returned to her quarters, she told herself it was just data, just anomaly analysis, nothing more. But she didn't sleep that night, not because of fear, but because of something far stranger. The Veritas blade drifted silently through the Tevran expanse, an ocean of stars outside its hull casting long, elegant streaks of light across its matte black surface. Inside, everything thrummed with purpose. Automated systems purring like satisfied cats, power cores whispering in harmonized pulses. In the heart of the ship, past the command deck and neural relay corridors, Elian Wren was whistling a tune so off-key it bordered on criminal. Commander Celari stood just outside his chamber, a data slate in one hand, the other clenched behind her back as if holding herself in place. She'd already reviewed the logs of his previous interrogation sessions twice. Transcripts, biometric responses, tone inflection analysis, everything. It had yielded nothing but inconsistencies. He lied like a human, laughed like a child, and somehow deflected every question without ever raising his voice. He even managed to make the ship's AI develop a preference for his presence, which frankly was the most disturbing part. REX 99 chimed in over the hallway comms. "He's currently trying to teach me a card game called Go Fish Him, Commander. The rules are illogical and designed to promote chaos." Celari didn't blink. "Observe and document. I already have a file titled Human Recreational Lunacy. It's now 147 pages. Make it 148. She stepped into the chamber. Elian sat cross-legged on the floor, a small pile of data cards scattered before him, each one hastily sketched with hand-drawn fish. He glanced up at her, a sheepish grin spreading across his face. "Commander, just in time. Care to join a round?" "Is this an actual human strategic activity?" He looked insulted. "This is a sacred ritual passed down through generations of bored children and desperate adults trapped on long-haul transport freighters. It teaches resource management, deception, and, ichthyology." "You made that last word up." "It's a real word. I swear on my last clean sock." She arched one brow and stepped past the cards. Your interrogation begins now. Let me guess. No fish involved. No, he sighed. Fine. But I hope you realize this is why no one invites you to game night. She ignored him and activated a hollow projection of a star chart between them, its glowing points shifting and reorganizing into overlapping maps of contested sectors. Explain the Earth Coalition's withdrawal from the Esthin Rift. All intelligence predicted resistance. Have you seen the Esthin Rift? It's a nightmare. Acid storms, gravity spikes, psychic bacteria. Just your average tropical getaway. This is not helpful. It's not untrue either, he muttered. The projection flickered to show a time-lapse of Zurelian troop deployments. She watched his face carefully, looking for micro-expressions, hesitation, anything. But he wasn't watching the chart. He was watching her. He said suddenly, you should try smiling more. Her jaw tightened. He raised both hands in surrender. Okay, that came out wrong. What I meant was, you always look like you're preparing to be disappointed, or like someone just insulted your furniture. Selari narrowed her eyes. I was genetically conditioned to exhibit minimal emotional volatility in command environments. He blinked. That, actually explains a lot. She turned off the projection. Is it strange, he added, that I sometimes forget we're on opposite sides? That would be extremely strange. Well, there you go. They sat in silence for a moment. Not the strained interrogation room silence, but something looser, weirder. Selari watched him as he fiddled with one of the drawn fish cards, holding it up like it held the secrets of the universe. You never talk about your home, he said. She froze. That's not relevant. It is to me. Her eyes narrowed, but not with threat, with something like confusion. No one had asked her that before. Not even other Zurelians. It simply wasn't done. Personal details were weaknesses. Memories were distractions. Still, she spoke. I was born on Sector Core 3, raised in Orbital Academy. I've never been planetside for longer than 48 hours. No wonder you're so serious. You've never touched dirt. She gave him a look. You say that as if it's a privilege. He grinned. It is. You've never fallen asleep to the sound of rain? Or smelled something so good you burned your tongue eating it too fast? I don't burn my tongue. Well, that explains the lack of chocolate addiction. Chocolate is not an Earth strategic resource. That, he said with a dramatic sigh, is the saddest thing I've heard all day. REX 99 suddenly interrupted. Correction. The saddest thing you've said today was your attempt at singing earlier. I am still purging corrupted auditory logs. Hey, Elian said, pointing at the ceiling. Music is subjective. Pain is not. Selari almost smiled. Almost. I think your AI likes me, Elian said, turning back to her. Highly unlikely. I'm charming. You'll see. I doubt it. There was a pause. The air felt oddly warm despite the ship's regulated temperature. Then Elian spoke again, more quietly. Do you know why I'm not afraid of you? She tilted her head. I asked you that already. I gave you a short answer, but here's the long one. When I looked at you on the battlefield, you didn't feel evil, just tired, not physically, deep down tired, like someone who's been told their whole life what to be and never had a moment to ask if it's what they want to be. She didn't respond. He leaned back on his elbows. People say I joke too much. They think it's because I'm avoiding something, but I joke because life's too heavy already. I don't want to add to the weight. You're already carrying too much. Her throat tightened slightly. She didn't understand the sensation. It was foreign, like breathing on a planet with strange air. He was doing it again, pulling something loose inside her without even trying. That's illogical, she said softly. That's being human. She stood, her body moving before her mind caught up. I will return tomorrow, she said. I'll be here. Same fish time, same fish channel. She left quickly, boots clicking too loudly in the hallway. Behind her, the door slid shut with a hiss, and for a moment, she pressed her fingers to the panel, just briefly. In the silence of her private quarters, she looked down at her data slate. She didn't pull up battle maps or interrogation notes. Instead, she typed in a word, chocolate, and stared at it like it might explode. The stars outside the Veritas blade had begun to shift. Not in the literal sense. Stars didn't do that unless your ship was warping. but in a more subtle internal way. Solari had seen them every day of her life, charted their positions, mapped enemy routes between them, named campaigns after their constellations. But now when she looked at them, they no longer felt like fixed beacons or silent judges. They felt curious, watching, waiting. And for the first time in her career, she didn't know what they were waiting for. She stood on the observation deck in her off-duty uniform, which was almost identical to her combat one, except without the armor plating and psychological intimidation factor. Her long ears twitched slightly as the hum of the ship shifted pitch, a subtle signal from Rex that her presence had been noticed and logged. She could still hear Elian's voice echoing from memory. You should try wearing something that doesn't scream "I conquer planets before breakfast." Just once. The thought made her lips do something she still didn't entirely approve of. Smile. "Commander," came Rex's chipper voice, "your human prisoner is currently attempting to cook something called macaroni, using one heating coil, 3 protein packets, and what appears to be synthetic adhesive. Stop him before he poisons himself or the ventilation system," she said, rubbing her eyes. "I did. He insisted the adhesive adds character. Put him in briefing room 7. I'll be there shortly." Briefing room 7 was mostly used for low-level officer evaluations and the occasional disciplinary meeting. It had exactly one stool, one console, and one panel of ambient lighting that was always slightly too bright. Elian was already sitting on the floor with his back against the wall, legs stretched out like he owned the place. "You're late," he said, not looking up. "You're impossible," she replied. He grinned and patted the floor beside him. "That's true, but I also made you something." She hesitated, visibly, which annoyed her, and stepped forward. He held out a small, lumpy rectangle wrapped in cloth. "Is this a bomb?" she asked. "I mean, only if you have a severe allergy to synthetic cheese." Inside was a very misshapen bar of something vaguely brown, sticky, and possibly chocolate adjacent. "I followed a recipe," he said. "Whose recipe?" "Mine. I made it up." She stared at the blob. It looked like it had seen battle and lost. She took a bite anyway. Silence. "It's not terrible," she said. He looked like he might cry from pride. "That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me. I once told you your vital signs were stable." "Exactly. Pure poetry." She sat beside him, the stiff posture of a soldier slowly melting into something looser, like a tree learning how to bend. He glanced at her. "So, what happens now?" It was the question that had loomed over both of them for days, wrapped in sarcasm and small talk, hovering like unspoken static. "I've delayed your transfer," she said. "Command doesn't ask questions when I mark someone as tactically unusual." His smile faded slightly. "You mean I'm a science experiment?" "No," she said, and she meant it. "You're a breach. In security, in protocol, in certainty, in me." That shut him up for a moment, and for Ellie and Wren, that was a feat worthy of documentation. She turned toward him. "You could run." "I could," he agreed. "I could also eat the rest of that chocolate brick and regret it for days." "Rex has logged your gastrointestinal system's limit at 37% capacity. I'm flattered. He's keeping track of me. He's trying to figure out how your metabolism hasn't imploded. Love is complicated." She rolled her eyes. It felt good, like stretching a muscle that had long atrophied. More silence, but not the awkward kind. The kind that said two very different people were exactly where they needed to be. Then her comms device chirped, a message from Central Command. It flashed once. Urgent. Priority level red. Her expression shifted before she could stop it. Elian saw. "Bad news?" "They want me to leave orbit," she said slowly. "There's a summit between the High Command and the Earth Coalition. I've been assigned to represent our side." He stood, brushing imaginary crumbs off his pants. "So, I'm going back into the exchange pool." "You're not a trade good," she said sharply. "No, but I am a symbol," he said. "A human who didn't panic. You probably haven't figured out how dangerous that is." She stood facing him fully now. "I'm not delivering you to anyone. Not Earth, not Zural, not Command. That Wasn't in the plan. But then again, neither were you. He stared at her, then laughed softly. You know, if we weren't on opposite sides of an interstellar conflict, I think I might have asked you to dinner. Dinner, she repeated, suspicious. Yeah, real food, no glue. I find that difficult to believe. Why? You're terrifying. That's kind of my thing. Her ears twitched again. Damn them. She pulled a small disc from her pocket, a portable cloaking tag, military grade. Take this, she said. It'll hide your biosignature for 36 hours. Are you saying what I think you're saying? You have a head start. He took it slowly. And then what? I'll tell them I lost you. And when they don't believe you, they will. I'm a very convincing liar when properly motivated. His hand hovered near hers for a moment, then touched it, briefly. Warm, human. Will I see you again? He asked. She didn't answer, but she smiled. Even when the Veritas blade left the Tevran expanse, Elian Wren was no longer aboard. His trail had vanished, just as it was designed to. The official report blamed a power glitch and an AI navigational recalibration error. The unofficial whispers said the legendary commander Sciolari had failed for the first time. She let them whisper. In her quarters, beside the star maps and war trophies, sat a single, melted chocolate bar in a sealed stasis cube. Next to it was a drawn fish card, folded once, with a handwritten note on the back. Not afraid. Still curious. Try the rain someday. E.W. She stared at it every night, and sometimes she smiled.